Hello and welcome to Sew Crafty with Connie. Today I want to show you how to make a memory pillow out of a t-shirt. And these are some examples that I have made. And the very last picture right here, that's the one that I'll be making for y'all today. So I wanted to go ahead and show you a supply list. And to make these, you'll need a t-shirt, some polyfill, lightweight interfacing, rotary cutter, scissors, sewing machine, and a needle and thread, because you're going to have to hand sew up the opening. And lightweight interfacing works better because you don't want your t-shirt to be very thick. And you want the interfacing to be iron-on as well, because that'll be the easiest to do. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so I have my t-shirt and I'm going to cut the square out, and you can decide what size you want it, but right now I'm just preparing it to cut the square out. So I'm going to cut the sleeves off first, and it'll make it a little bit easier to cut. Now this is just what I do. You can find what works for you, but I have found what works for me as far as working t-shirts this is what works for me. So I cut one end under the arm, and then I cut the other end of the arm. And so right now it's just the two shoulders that are together, and then I'm going to cut those apart too. And then that way you'll have the whole front side and you'll have the whole back side minus the sleeves. To me, it makes it a little bit easier to work with. So now this is the back, and I'm going to take it and just kind of flatten it out. And I'm going to use my square. That's about how big I want the pillow to be. And that's about what my design is too, so that works. So I'm going to cut this part out, and if you want, you can use a bigger square, you can use a smaller one, whatever you want as far as the design is concerned. And then I'm just going to get rid of that other piece of t-shirt, and then I'm going to take the front part of the t-shirt and do the same thing. You want to make sure that your designs, or the squares that you cut out of the t-shirts for the designs, are going to be the same size for the pillow. And so I'm just kind of centering it, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take my rotary cutter and just cut out the design with this square ruler. You can use scissors if you want, but I feel rotary cutter is a lot quicker. Okay, so I'm just going to get rid of that piece of the t-shirt. So now I've got the front part of it cut out. Now here is my interfacing. This is a lightweight interfacing. It's iron. You can iron it down so it's got bubbles on one side. That's the part that you put on the fabric to iron. And so I'm just going to take my squares and lay them out on the interfacing and cut them out, cut the interfacing out to the size of the square. It just makes it easier to iron on when you're ready to do that step. So that's the front one, and now I'm going to do the same thing with the back one. And I'm just kind of laying it flat. Oh, I'm going to go ahead and iron it. So what I did was I made sure that the bubbles of the interfacing was face down on the back of the t-shirt square. And you just want to iron it on. Make sure your iron is not at the hottest setting, but make sure it's kind of in the middle. And you want to make sure that you get the corners too. And so now I'm doing the same thing with the other square. Now this one, I just kind of saved interfacing, so I'm kind of splicing these. I've had some scraps interfacing, so I'm just going to lay these kind of on top of each other, but in the size of the square. And then what I'm doing is just taking the iron, and I'm starting in the middle and just kind of moving it towards the side on each side. And then again, make sure you get it ironed down on your corners pretty good. Alright, so I've got that done. I've got my 2 pieces ironed, and you want to take them and put them right sides together and match up your corners, your ends. And now I'm going to sew all the way around, leaving about a 3-inch opening. And so that's what I did here. I've sewn each side, and then I left a 3-inch opening on the bottom. I would leave the opening on the bottom. So now I'm just going to cut the corners. And then I'm going to trim the excess off just a little bit so you don't have so much bulk when you turn it right side out. And then when you do this, be careful that you don't clip the seams that you made. And I'm going to leave a little part where the opening is so I can sew that closed, have something to sew closed. Okay, I got my edges trimmed and my corners cut. Now I'm going to flip it right side out. And then if your hole is a little smaller, it could might take a little while, but you can get it done eventually. And then you can use some kind of object to poke the holes. Make sure you poke your corners out really well. I'm just using my finger right here. You can use a stick or something like that. And I'm just making sure that the corners are well defined and poked out. Alright, so now I've got it all turned right side out. Just kind of flatten it out just a little bit. Okay, and now we want to start stuffing it. So I've got my polyfill, and I'm just going to start stuffing it. And at this point, you can just stuff it as much as you want or as less. It depends on how firm you want it. And I'm just going to stuff it just somewhat firm, but not too much. Alright, I got it all stuffed. And now I'm going to get ready to close the opening. I'm just going to hand sew it. And it's just a simple slip stitch is all I'm doing. So I've got the knot at the end of my needle and thread, and I'm just easily hand sewing it together. I'm not doing anything fancy here. You can do an invisible stitch, you can do a blanket stitch, but with this, since it's on the bottom, it's going to be setting probably most likely on that part, so it won't be seen. But if it's on a bed or something, you'll be able to see it, but not very well since it's kind of small, the opening's kind of small, and the thread is white. Alright, and that's all there is to it. Once you get that end closed up, you just tie it in a knot and cut your thread, and that's it. I hope you enjoyed this, and please like and subscribe to my channel, and I'd love to see your pillows in the comments. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you again for watching. Have a great day. Bye-bye.